Hello there. Thank you for joining me here on Alyssa Jean's Reviews. We are here to discuss What If Season 1, Episode 8. We're going to talk about what if Ultron had won. And with me this week, is as usual, every week, is Mark from Enchantment of Eternity. Want to say hello, Mark?
Hello, how's it going? Good to see everyone. Good to see Corey again. Good to see you. Good to see everyone who's joining to talk about part one of this finale. So, yeah, excited about it.
Yeah, and welcome back, Corey. We haven't seen you since the beginning, so it's good to have you back.
I know, I'm back finally. Thanks for inviting me again.
Yeah, and hello to Brandon in the chat. Good to see you as well. All right, let's dive into it. Let's talk about our overall thoughts, feelings, insights, whatever you want to talk about this episode. We'll start with Corey.
It was a very fun episode. I liked seeing all the different multiverses when we were jumping around from place to place or breaking through the barrier into a new world. That was fun. I love seeing Natasha again, Clint and Natasha. I've missed Natasha since the Black Widow movie and the few little bits we've seen her here and there in What If. So am happy to see her character back. And just Ultron was very frustrating in this episode. He was so OP that it was like there's nobody can beat this. Like why is this even a story? It was just very frustrating for me. I was waiting for somebody else to come in and have his butt handed to him. I really wanted him to be dealt with, but next episode we'll have that, so hopefully.
Yeah, I'm assuming Ultron is just not going to conquer the whole multiverse next episode, because then that's the end of the MCU. So I assume something will happen next week. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I was just so frustrated, and it felt like constantly everybody who was trying to stand up against him didn't really even have a fighting chance to begin with. like they couldn't even try to stop the nukes from being set off. And so basically the last two people alive on Earth are Clint and Natasha.
I feel like there might be other people alive on Earth that just not any other like Avengers, but I don't know.
Or
maybe they are the only two
underground bunkers.
Yeah. Oh, there are other. I guess it was the plane that saved them, so maybe there were other people in planes. I don't know. They probably are the only two people left. Who knows? Yeah. Anything else you want to add before I go over to Mark?
Nope. That's about it. I mean, I have some other little points, but I'll wait till we actually pick apart the episode.
So we get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like this episode. It did really feel like part one of a two-parter. So it really felt like the setup. So it's like kind of incomplete, but at least I know this one's going to be finished. I don't like that the Killmonger one, which I'm still not sure if that's ever going to be finished. But this episode reminded me or felt the most like a cartoon or like a comic book. Like, I know it is a cartoon, but like most of it felt like it could belong in the MCU, where this really had that, especially the Watcher versus Ultron fight. Like, felt like I was watching like anime, or it could have been like right out of a comic book, which is not a bad thing because it was beautiful animation. But it was just noted as different. So it will be hard for me to think of this as like part of the MCU, because it does seem like a cartoon, like supplemental material. But yeah, I think it did a really good job setting up. It got me interested to see what's going to happen next. I love that we got more of the Watcher, and the Watcher was more of a main character in this episode rather than just the narrator. And so that was fascinating. So yeah, it was decent.
I did get that kind of cartoony feel as well. It felt like if I had turned it on the TV and I didn't know what it was, I would have assumed I clicked onto like a kid's, Saturday Marvel adventures, like Marvel Agents of Smash or something. It did kind of have that sort of cartoony feel, especially to the fight.
Okay. Maybe I just have that nostalgia for those old Saturday morning cartoons, because this was like by far my favorite episode. I love this episode. This is kind of like what I wanted to see in What If. This is kind of what I was looking for when now we are starting to cross the multiverse. Not just these independent standalone stories, but now they're starting to come together. And my second favorite episode was the Doctor Strange episode. And both of those episodes, there's a character who hears the Watcher talk. And I love that. I love that the Watcher is not just a Watcher. He's not just just standing by. I love that he's involved in the plot. This is what I wanted to see in What If. So I think this episode could lose a little bit of its luster if next week doesn't follow through, because it is a part one. So it is kind of dependent on what part two delivers. So if I love part two as well, then I'll continue to love this one. If part two is kind of a disappointment, then that'll probably retroactively affect my opinion of this one. But just as a standalone episode, this is kind of what I've been waiting for. And you guys made good points about the cartoon thing, but I didn't notice it until you mentioned it. I wasn't really thinking in those terms. I was just thinking, oh my God, cool, we're getting a crossover in the multiverse. and the Watcher is like active in the plot now, which is kind of what I was waiting for. Yeah, the Watcher does have a name, Brandon, and I can never remember it. Do you know what his name is, Corey? It's like Mbatu or something like that.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Watu, something like that.
Rob referred to him as that when Rob was with us last week. Rob knows what his name is. And Darren probably does too. So if one of them show up in the chat later, they can probably
They know everything.
Yeah.
They're the Marvel dictionary.
Yeah.
It did have a bit of like the Loki feel for the last few episodes where they were jumping across different planets and times. I did have a similar feel to that this episode. I just love the Barton and Natasha, like us against the world type of sneaking in, going to Russia, and that I liked. I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah, I really like that too. I like those two characters together. And we get a bit of I was going to talk about this more later, but we kind of get a bit of the reverse in-game scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say in regards to the Watcher having a name, like there's more than one Watcher, so they need to differentiate.
Yeah, in the comics, there's more than one Watcher. We've only seen one in the MCU so far. Well, actually, there was that one scene with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But
there's the Stan Lee scene.
Okay, there's only been one Watcher in What If, I should say. So, Brandon, we'll get to how easy it was to kill Thanos. I didn't have a problem with that, but we'll get to that later. I actually still have much more of a problem with Thanos in the zombie episode than here. But we will get to that a bit later. I wanted to go through the episode. So let's start with the beginning. I'm really enjoying when What If does the format of starting with the story in progress and then going back and showing us how we got to that. I think they've done that for a few of the episodes. I don't know if they've done it for all of them, but I prefer it when they do it that way.
In medias res.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yeah. And I liked the beginning with Clint and Natasha, and it definitely felt very Terminator-esque to me. So I love that later on we get an actual Terminator reference dropped in this episode from Captain Marvel, because it definitely did feel very Terminator-esque to me. But that's not a bad thing. Also, we get a little bit touch on the Borg here because they mentioned the hive mind of Ultron, and they talk about that throughout the episode. Except unlike the Borg in Star Trek, there's an actual control center, the main computer, Ultron, or whatever you want to call him. I forgot what they referred to him as, the main control center, and that actually makes sense. Whereas with the Borg Queen, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I like that too. And then once we get into the recount, and they show us what happened in this world, they didn't really like specifically say how Ultron was able to succeed in his plan. Because that's what he was trying to do, was make like the body for him to be in, which I guess would look exactly like Vision apparently. But he was unsuccessful, obviously, in the main MCU, and was successful. And they didn't really say like precisely what it was that was different, but it was fine. I didn't really feel like I needed that. And I also I had a little side note when talking about this run through that they show Ultron killing Tony Stark. So Tony Stark is now 0 for 4 in the multiverse. So he just dies immediately in every episode. So he's been murdered by Hank Pym, turned into a zombie. He was killed by Killmonger with a spear. That was the only episode where he had any amount of lines in it. And then he's killed by Ultron immediately. So Tony Stark's like the Sean Bean of the multiverse. He just does not do well in the multiverse. So I just got a little chuckle of that. But this time Ultron is successful in nuking the planet, which is what he was, I guess, trying to originally do in the Age of Ultron. I always thought that the whole drop in the city thing was a dumb thing. That the whole Sokovia thing was a dumb plan anyways. But his original plan was actually to try to nuke the Earth, and this time he does succeed. So I don't know. This whole opening sequence like got me into it. So what did you think, Mark? What were your thoughts on all of that?
So, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Age of Ultron. So he actually tried to do the missile thing first, but that failed, and his backup plan was to throw the...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I was wondering why. I was like, why didn't he do the Sokovia, lift it up into space and throw it down? But yeah, no, that's a way better plan. Like, that was such a stupid plan. But yeah, no, I like the opening sequence. I agree. Like, it got you right into it with everything, seeing Clint and Natasha on the run and how they're coordinating. It's like, oh, we got to make sure we only have this amount of time before we get spotted and all that kind of jazz. Like, really got you into the episode. And I agree. I like how they started with that and they went back and sort of explained. I was a bit worried that they wouldn't go back, but because I think we did need an explanation, but I think it worked that they didn't do it first. Like, they started with the action and then they give the explanation. And yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I heard about this concept of the Vision Ultron from like promotional materials and stuff like that. But when I first heard of it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense, because I often forget that Vision was first created as a new body for Ultron. Like, that was his whole thing. It's just the Thor did his magical thingy-magod Bombauer, and Vision became Vision, but it was originally supposed to be Ultron, and so that's actually a good what if Ultron merged. So so I was with it. I thought it was a really good way to start the episode.
I really liked the opening line with the Watcher where he says, "This story breaks my heart," because that made me curious, because I'm like, why does it break your heart? What happens in the story? Does it literally break your heart? Like, do you die at the end of this? Or what's different about this particular story? So I'm still interested to try to figure out what are the answers we're going to get for the next final episode that answers this question. I loved that Natasha and Clint were sort of surviving on the run, like you guys had said, and that they're still fighting even though so many people have died. I just like that they don't give up. They still have hope. I mean, Clint's kind of wavering, but Nat is still Nat. Like, she never gives up, and it's very reminiscent of her in Endgame, where she was the one that was keeping S.H.I.E.L.D. running and everybody else was kind of MIA or doing other things, and she was still at headquarters, keeping the computers running and everything on. I thought it was cool that Clint has cloaking technology, because he was just able to disappear and then kind of reappear. And so I'm going like, did he steal Harry Potter's invisibility cloak? Like, what is this?
And that's what it looked like. It looked like
Yeah.
he had the cloak. Yeah.
But we know that S.H.I.E.L.D. has cloaking on their jets, and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Clark's team had cloaking on their jet and the bus and everything. So it's canon. We just don't know where he got it or how or why, but I thought that was kind of cool. They keep cutting off people's arms. I mean, Phil lost his arm at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now Clint he's missing an arm in that one moment when the robots attack. So that wasn't expecting that. And I like that the humor was very kind of dry, because it reflected really well for that sort of end of the world environment where Nat's not really cracking jokes. She tells Clint, the line about give you a hand, and she says, "I'm not really one to do puns." So I liked that. Yeah, and then we find out that we have a possibility of beating Ultron if we use an AI that's merged with human identity. So Arnim Zola, who's human, but he's been made into code, basically. Yeah, and that's kind of. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and we will get more into Zola in a minute. But I wanted to address Brandon in the chat. If the story breaks the watcher's heart, does that imply the watcher knows the ending? Because I was thinking about that too when Corey, when you were talking about that line, because this is how I read it, that the watcher exists kind of outside of time, so he doesn't see linear time necessarily. So it's like he's seen this again and again, or he's seen it kind of outside in time. But this is like usually Ultron doesn't recognize him. And I think that also is why at the end of last week's episode, he sees Ultron come in and he's surprised, because he probably have seen this like an infinite number of times and it doesn't usually go this way. So Ultron has somehow reached that much power that he is able to kind of, I don't know, step outside of time and actually see the watcher.
Yeah, it's like a character talking to the narrator or the author.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't want to do that. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I had a question about that, because I was wondering while I was watching this how this tracks with the previous episode. Because when the Ultron broke into the Party Thor's universe, like he was like, "What the?" Like he was surprised. But when did that happen compared to this? Because he was surprised again when Ultron broke into his universe, and obviously he had to break into his thing first, because that's how he's traveling to different multiverse. So does it happen after this episode, or if it did, then why is the watcher surprised? I don't know. I'm a bit confused.
I think last week's episode happened first. I think, and I don't know. I think he was. I don't know. I think he would maybe wasn't. I think last week was the first time that he saw it, and then maybe he was like, "Huh, well, that's interesting." And then this was like he didn't think much of it, or I don't know. I actually don't have a good answer to tell you the truth. I don't really know.
I mean, it could be possible that he's gaining a different awareness. Yeah. So he's changing from just being a watcher to now being a character that's actually taking part in the universe that he's supposed to be observing, and how that's changing.
Well, that's what I thought when I first saw that is there two different watchers? Like, is there a different version of the variant of the watcher? And we saw one who, I don't know. That's just what I thought, wasn't it? Because it seemed like he was surprised when we saw him last week, and he was surprised again this week.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't have a good explanation for
that. Another thing I thought I really liked is when they set the nukes off, the only thing Clint says is Laura. Which was like, oh, like he lost his whole family again. Like,
Yeah, poor guy keeps losing his whole family.
I know, and it's just, and you see that with his conversations with Nat, where he's like, my will to live is flatlining. Like, I'm barely hanging on for why am I even here?
Yeah.
But you have Nat, and you have to save the world with Nat, and there's more universes than just yours, Clint. So come on.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to move on in the episode. I wanted to now talk about the thing Brandon mentioned in the chat earlier. Thanos comes, and then yes, Ultron kills him instantly. I didn't have a problem with that. I just thought he was taken by surprise. Like, he's like, oh, interesting. Just killed it. Like, Thanos wasn't expecting to be in a fight. So and I feel like Ultron, was very efficient. Like, I had no problem with that. I also saw a video where they were complaining about how Thanos collected all the stones, but I thought it was interesting that those same people didn't complain about how Thanos collected all the stones as a zombie. Like, I still don't understand how did zombie Thanos go to whatever that planet, I forget the planet, with the Red Skull and throw zombie Gamora
She's already dead.
The cliff and go, "Arr, arr, arr." Like, I still have infinitely more of a problem of Thanos getting the stones in the zombie episode than in this episode. Like, whatever. I don't really care. It's a 30-minute episode. It's not a 2-hour movie. Some things you just kind of got to gloss over. So personally, I had no problem with that. But I don't know. What did you guys think of that?
Definitely didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. It was like the fight was over before it even started, which for me just kept reiterating the fact that any fight with Ultron, you really don't stand a chance, no matter who you are, which was just making me more mad because I'm like, come on, there's going to be somebody who's going to get rid of him because he's driving me nuts. But yeah, I kind of was on the same line with you that I assumed he stepped through the portal not expecting to be, laser beamed to death instantaneously, which might be a reflection of the fact like he has the glove or the Infinity Gauntlet, and so he assumes he's all powerful. Yeah, I just it caught me by surprise, and so I was like, oh, okay, well, guess that's been dealt with. And what's next?
Yeah. Mark?
So I've heard people complain about this because he had 4 of the Infinity Stones, so couldn't he use those stones to protect himself? Like, couldn't he like put up a shield with a reality stone, or turn Ultron into a slinky or whatever? But my thoughts on this scene was I love it because, I know I'm in the minority, but I had a problem with Infinity War because I thought Thanos was too perfect and too great, and it really bugged me. So to see him instantly, boom, get to, I was like, yes! I actually love the scene because of that. And I heard other people complain that the show What If is like really making Thanos seem like wimpy, like compared to the way he was in Infinity War and Endgame, because there's the previous episode where he was just like at a bar telling jokes. But I actually love it. I think What If has made me appreciate Thanos more because it makes him not just an unrealistic, invincible, unstoppable Superman cliche. It actually makes him seem a bit more vulnerable and realistic. And so I totally buy that he could be caught off guard then. And in fact, I think this is how he should have been treated in Infinity War, but they needed him to win for a plot. But so I actually like this better than his appearance in Infinity War. Personally, I like the fact that he was just immediately just wasn't prepared because he's I'm unstoppable, invincible, and Ultron just goes poof, dead. Like, it kind of reminds me of the whole Indiana Jones thing. But so I didn't have a problem with that, I thought it worked for the plot. And the main thing too is this is 30-minute episodes. We gotta keep moving along. We can't spend like 5 minutes on a Thanos and Ultron fight, and I'm glad they didn't, because a prolonged fight, yes, it would be implausible for Ultron to win when he has 4 Infinity Stones, but it wasn't a prolonged fight. It was just taking him off guard, like, okay, boom, interesting. And so that does set up his Ultron as a more intimidating villain. And I do like that. And I love that they're using Ultron in this 2-parter rather than Thanos, because we've already done that. And Ultron was kind of underutilized in Age of Ultron anyway, so I'm glad they go back to him, but a different version of him. So yeah, I'm all for this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Thanos comes in with like this shit-eating grin, like he's just like unstoppable. And so he definitely was not expecting some Ultron to just slice him in half. Now, yeah, and to the people who say like it's implausible that he would have all the other Infinity Stones, I agree. But again, it's less implausible than the zombie episode. So whatever. And you said the same thing I said, Mark. It's a 30-minute episode. Come on, we gotta get moving. We only have so much time. Can't spend too much time on that. And obviously, they wanted Ultron in this episode to end up with the Infinity Stones. That's a very quick way to do it. Problem solved. 30-minute episode. Let's move on. So I actually thought it worked well.
So So you didn't want to get a scene with Ultron going on the planet with the Red Skull, and the Red Skull saying you must sacrifice something you love.
Yeah. What did he love? I don't think he loved it.
Oh, that reminds me. That's an interesting thing I wanted to mention. The Red Skull guy. God, I gotta look up at the actor's name again. But the actor who played the Red Skull in the Infinity Saga, obviously not Hugo Weaving, it's the same guy who voiced the Red Skull in the Peggy Carter episode. Also, apparently, the same guy who voiced Ultron in this episode. And he does he did a really good Hugo Weaving impression in the first episode, and he does a really good James Spader impression in this episode. To me, it sounded a lot like Ultron. Yes. I knew it wasn't James Spader, but it sounded a lot like him. And then I heard afterwards that it's the same guy who did Red Skull in the Peggy Carter episode.
This is the superpowers of being a voice actor.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I knew it wasn't James Spader is because I didn't see his name in the credits. Like if I hadn't looked at the credits, I would have thought it was James Spader. But no, Aaron from The Walking Dead. I can't remember his name, but I saw a video saying that apparently he's like an impressionist. He's known for like doing really good impressions. So it kind of makes sense. Like, especially, like, I don't know, that Red Skull was, well, in the Infinity movies, it was fine. But in that first episode, I thought, like, he was doing, it was way too obvious that he was just so doing Hugo Weaving. Where here, this felt more like a natural, like a James Spader thing.
Well, I thought he was good in both places. Okay, so then we get to the part that I really liked, where Ultron kind of breaks the fourth wall, where the Watcher is talking to us, I guess. I mean, who is the Watcher really talking to? I don't know. Is there actual an audience? I don't know. How meta is this? But he hears the Watcher talking. Is like, who's saying that? Personally, I just love this, but he's and this works because, as I mentioned earlier, we did have a previous character already do this, so I feel like that earlier episode was kind of the setup for this to show that it is possible, if you have the right level of consciousness, to be able to hear the Watcher. So this doesn't just come out of complete nowhere. We already know that it's possible for that to happen because we saw it in a previous episode. So I thought that they did that well. And then I thought it was interesting that we see like the Watcher's kind of realm or whatever, like the whatever universe that he's in, or I don't know what you would call it, but it's kind of like a mirror.
Purple Crystal Palace.
Purple Crystal Palace. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of the opening credits, how they always have like that broken mirror thing in the beginning. And so I guess that probably was foreshadowing that that's where the Watcher lives all of this time. I don't know, what did you make of that, Corrie? The purple prism, purple mirror, world of mirrors.
I didn't give it a ton of thought. To me, it just looked like it was like a passageway between all the different worlds. Like if the worlds were bubbles or globes, he's just in the area between those, the space between space, the spaces between space, or the areas between worlds. Although the fact that he was surprised that someone could hear him and then started to then show emotions of fear, kind of, at least for me, made him seem not as powerful, because as soon as he's this god-like creature who is now afraid of an AI and, taken by surprise about things, he's obviously clearly not omniscient. Like, even though he says he sees everything, he has seen everything, what was is to be. If he's surprised by what's happening around him, he's not omniscient. So it kind of, I don't know, it reduces his authority in a way for him to be afraid and uninformed.
Well, maybe I kind of read it as he's afraid is because he thinks he's omniscient and he's not used to something like that happening. Like, he's not used to, although it did happen before with Doctor Strange, but he's just not. That's not something that's supposed to be able to happen. So in his mind, he is omniscient, so that should never ever happen. So why is this happening? So that would take you by surprise. Like, if you're a god and then something happens to kind of knock you down off your god-like plane, then you would be surprised. Like, what? I thought I was a god. Like, this is not supposed to happen. Well, that's kind of how I read it, anyways.
I'll have to reduce you to demigod now.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Mark?
So I heard someone said, like, in the comics, the Watcher like hung out on the moon for most of the time. They're like, "Oh, I was so disappointed. What is he in this weird like mirror place?" And I'm like, but to me, that's like way more interesting than the moon. Like, that's kind of boring. Like, why would he be hanging out on the moon? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway,
where all the cheese is.
Yeah,
isn't that where the Watchers were with Stan Lee and the Guardians of the Galaxy? Weren't they on the moon, or no?
Yeah.
It wasn't Earth's moon. It was a moon, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then they just left. And he's like, "Wait, guys, where are you?" They're like, "Let's take this party somewhere else."
But anyway, so this really reminds me of like that space that he was in. That reminded me of the movie Interstellar. Spoilers for Interstellar, but at the end there was that place they were in where it was like outside of time. They also called that the Tesseract, but that's a different Tesseract. That's what it reminded me of. When Matthew McConaughey was communicating with his daughter, could see all the different outside of time. That's what it reminded me of, and I like it. It worked for me. It made a lot of sense that he would have this sort of dimension where he could look at everything, and him being surprised by Ultron. Yeah, I like that too. I think because you can only, for me, like, if you make a character way too powerful, then it starts to, I don't know, I start to get bothered by it. So I like that he can be caught off guard. And we do see that he is, in fact, super powerful, because Ultron has all 5 Infinity Stones, and the Watcher can still hold his own against them. So that shows, to me, that illustrated, wow, this guy's really, this is a powerful guy. But he's not invincible. He still has his flaws, which I love. To me, that only makes the character more interesting. And so he still seems like he's, and in fact, he was kind of beaten by Ultron, but I'm jumping ahead. But yeah, that so I did really enjoy that scene.
It made me think a bit of the mirror dimension too in the Doctor Strange world, like that kind of when they transfer from the normal world to the mirror dimension.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. I didn't think of that, but I saw another video where they pointed that out. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is a lot like that as well.
Some of the other things I noticed, like there were little things like Ultron gives himself a cape halfway through the episode, which like reminded me a lot of Vision doing the same thing when he's first born, and then he sees Thor, and so he gives himself the cape. So that made me chuckle. I was surprised that Carol couldn't stop Ultron. Like, I was really hoping that she would be able to, win that fight, but clearly she didn't. But they were kind of teasing us and setting it up so it looked like she might be able to win, and then then she's just.
Well, I knew she wouldn't because I knew that Ultron was going to be in next week's episode. So I knew we still have to have next week's episode, so there's no way Captain Marvel can win. But then that would be the end of the show, and we would just be done. But I do see your point, though, that I do think that she should be able to beat him. But I'm glad that they didn't just pretend that she didn't exist. I'm glad that they at least had that encounter and just be like, because otherwise we'd be like, well, where's Captain Marvel? But they can't have her beat him because they want to have him back in the next episode. They still have to have we've got to gather up the Guardians of the Multiverse, which we can speculate a little bit on at the end, because there's going to be some sort of gathering of characters from previous episodes, but we can talk about that at the end anyways.
The other thing I noticed, I'm not sure if anyone picked this up, but the helmet that he puts on when he's in super murder mode, it looks kind of like the Galactus helmet. I think that's the character that has the bits that stick out.
I think that was quite I think that was quite intentional so that they could have that scene when he bites on the galaxy like that. He looked exactly like Galactus when he did that.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting, and I loved the Raiders of the Lost Ark reference when they were going through the KGB archives. That made me laugh.
Good segue, because that was the next thing I was going to talk about. So let's go into that scene. They go into the warehouse. And then we have this interesting scene where the Watcher, you know what this reminded, which this made me think of, and I haven't thought of this movie in years, but it made me think of Ghost with Patrick Swayze, when he's going up to Demi Moore, no, you have to do this, and they're just walking through him and not able to see him.
Reminds me of the episode in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when Ghost Rider and Phil are in another dimension, and so they're essentially ghosts, and they're trying to give the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. advice. So Ghost Rider's sitting in the car and he's like, turn left, turn left, turn left. And then the car clicks the signal light and he goes, oh, I love this car. Right? So that's what it made me think of. But, yeah.
Also, Mark, the Star Trek reference would be I'm blanking on the name of it.
The next phase.
The next phase.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, there's been a lot. I feel like there's been a lot of things like that all throughout film and television, where there's somebody as a ghost and they're trying to talk to people. No, you have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. And they can't hear them. But that's what that reminded me of. And I actually really thought when Clint was just like, no, I give up. This is it. I actually thought maybe they weren't going to find what the Watcher was wanting them to find for a minute there. I thought that was just going to be like, oh, well, that's it. But obviously they do find it. It ends up leading them to what's his name? Zola. And I also want to mention that she finds the Red Guardian shield, which is a nice little tie into the Black Widow movie. Although I guess in the movie he didn't actually have the shield on him in the movie, but I guess that's something his character is known to have or whatever. But it was definitely the Red Guardian shield as opposed to the Captain America shield for sure. So I thought that was a nice. Yeah. I thought that was a fun little callback to the Black Widow movie.
Yeah, and I also love that when she's using the shield in battle, she's being almost exactly the same as Peggy's moves from episode 1. So I was like, yes. Now we can kind of see what would happen if Natasha took the serum. It became the Russian version of the Red Guardian instead of a guy becoming the Red Guardian. What if Natasha became the Red Guardian? That would be cool.
Maybe season 2, Natasha. What if Natasha became the Red Guardian? Yeah. No, I didn't even catch that it was similar to what Peggy Carter was doing. That's cool.
You're talking about Zola. Sorry,
yeah, I was going to talk about Zola, but did you have anything to add before we move on to Zola, Mark?
Oh yeah. I went to something about when the Watcher was trying to go like, no, it's right there, it's right there. I really thought that's when he was going to interfere, because he was so close. It's like, no, the whole multiverse is dependent on it. You need to find it. So I really thought that. I do wonder if Natasha didn't find it, they just walked away, if he would have interfered. Maybe in a low-key way, like have wind blowing out or something. But something to like get their attention. But I like that. That was like good drama, because you know that, and the Watcher, of course, is going to interfere because he gets we see him with Doctor Strange at the end of the episode. But but that's what made me think that it was going to happen at that moment.
See, I wondered if he could interfere, because he's in that mirror, not the mirror universe, but the whatever you call that, prism world,
Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace. Yeah, can he really interfere from there? So I wasn't even sure if he was capable of interfering.
He does an oath not to interfere, so that would imply that he has the freedom to interfere, but he's chosen not to.
Yeah, and also the fact that the Supreme Doctor Strange and Ultron could hear him makes me. If they can hear him, I think that he could, talk to other people, intentionally.
It was so sad when Clint was just giving up. I'm like, come on, Clint, you can do it. Yeah. Come on, here. I just want to go over and give him a hug and be like, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. Yeah, it's gonna be okay. I love that Clint threatens Zola with water. He's destroyed how many other laptops and tech stuff. The S.H.I.E.L.D. tech people can tell you how many times he's ruined stuff. That's hilarious.
So and so getting into Zola now. So he's apparently so this was the same place that was in Captain America Civil War at the end. In Siberia. So apparently Zola, there's a copy of Zola that exists there in our universe too. So theoretically that could be found again at some point. So we could see Zola back again in the main universe, theoretically, if he exists in both universes in that place, which I assume he does. So I found it interesting that he even existed there. But I was wondering, is this really, even if this plan works, is that really going to work out for them in the end? Because so he's trying to connect to the Ultron hive mind and take it over. So are you better off having? Yeah, are you better off having Zola have that power? I don't know that. I don't know. But I just feel like it was a really desperate plan, that they had no other options at that point, and the Watcher seemed to think it would work. So I guess we were just to assume that it could work. I just was but wouldn't Zola just have the power of Ultron? I don't know.
We just have him uploaded into Ultron. I assumed what the plan is that they were trying to remove his main coding initiative.
Oh, okay.
Right, because everything he's doing is because he has been coded to bring peace, and he's misinterpreting that in his AI logic as being destroy everything so there can be no fighting. But that's not really peace. That's just bombing everything to death. And it made me think of the WandaVision discussion between the two visions. And so I wonder if Ultron could be taken out by another Ultron. If the way to beat Ultron would be to give him a logical fallacy for his purpose as an AI, and then he can't function because he can't,
Well, then that makes me think. Then I wonder if a vision from another universe, so it's not exactly Ultron, but I wonder if maybe the White Vision could now go and defeat Ultron. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Mark, any thoughts on Zola or any of the stuff we're talking about here?
Not really. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was interesting, but yeah, you guys pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
Francis.
Yeah.
Francis.
So, yeah.
We find out what Barton's middle name is. And
Oh,
even
yes,
Natasha
yes.
didn't know that. Barton Francis.
Yeah,
Clinton Francis Barton.
Francis Barton.
Named after his Mima.
Yeah. Is that canon in the comics? Is that I don't know. Is that something that they just made up?
I'm wondering, how did Zola know that and Natasha didn't?
Yeah.
Like, did he just access files?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, I think he did. I think that's what was implied there, that he accesses files, because he kind of did almost the same spiel that he did at the beginning of or when they saw him in Winter Soldier. Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I bet you want to know what," and Natasha's like, "No, I don't care." Like, what
she like totally steps on his moment. Did I step on your moment?
Yeah, but I think if I remember correctly, I think in Winter Soldier he said that exact thing or something similar, and then he did actually, tell his little story there so that we knew what his origin was. But here we already know his origin, so they didn't need to do that. So Natasha just cut him off.
Now the place that Steve and Natasha went, where they found the Zola computer, that was on U.S. soil, right? Because
that was in upstate New York or something like that.
Yeah, because Steve said it was where he trained. So this is just in telling us that there's a duplicate of Zola somewhere in Russia.
Right. And it's the same place that they were in the Captain America Civil War at the end. So yeah, that's telling us. So what that tells us is there could be in our universe also a copy of Zola in that location too. That could still pop up again at some point in the MCU. Possibly Captain America 4. Who knows? Or not.
Another thing I thought was cool was they have this line at the end that anything is possible in the multi-universe. I think it's when the Watcher is fighting with Ultron, and he's like, "This isn't possible," and Ultron says, "Anything is possible in the multiverse." But that then means that at some point in the multiverse, it's possible for Ultron to be beat.
Yeah, that's true. If anything is possible, then it's possible for him to be defeated. I didn't even catch that line, but
it was near the end.
Yeah, so I don't know. Let's talk about the Watcher versus Ultron. So I can see now where you guys are getting the comic book or cartoons thing. The Watcher puts on this armor. I mean, I made me wonder, like, how often has he needed that? I mean, who else has he fought? But or maybe he's never needed it before and he can just will it because he's all powerful or whatever. But so he's not able to defeat Ultron. But as Mark pointed out earlier, like he held his own. I mean, he didn't die like everybody else. Like Captain Marvel died. The Watcher is still around. He was not able to defeat Ultron, but that shows me that he's really powerful, that he could even like not be killed by Ultron. And he was, and I really love the scene when they were just going through all the different universes. And then we get the Easter egg. I believe we talked about this before we went on air, so I'll talk about it again. Where we get the Easter egg of Steve Rogers being sworn in as president, which was a nice touch. And then in that same universe, I didn't catch on to this, but it was another video that I watched that I guess there's a dude with a pineapple shirt who's the same dude with the pineapple shirt in last week's episode with Party Thor.
Oh, really?
It's the same dude, same shirt, and apparently it's like the shirt that I forget who. One of the people involved with Marvel likes to wear this shirt, this pineapple shirt. So they put it on this character and they put him in 2 consecutive episodes just kind of standing there. I guess he was probably partying with Thor last week. But I did not catch that one. But I did catch the Steve Rogers one. I thought that was a nice little thing there that Steve Rogers is becoming president there as they're fighting. And yeah, I thought it was a cool scene. I like how they were just going through all the different universes. You guys have any comments on that? Mark?
Well, when I said it's cartoonish, like I don't mean I didn't like it. I like it. Like some cartoons like that can be really cool. I thought it was a really yes. It just but it just felt different than most of the show. But that's fine. Like I liked it. I thought it was beautiful. As I said, like the animation was absolutely beautiful. It was gorgeous to watch. But one of my favorite parts of this scene is when the banter between the Watcher and Ultron. Ultron's like, "Why you just interfere?" But one of my favorite lines is when the Ultron calls the Watcher creepy for just watching. He's like, "Why don't you actually do something? It's less creepy."
Frankly.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I was actually surprised that the Watcher was really able to like hold his own against Ultron and really put up a good fight. I was like, well, damn, this guy's really powerful. But of course, he couldn't defeat him all the way, so that's why he needs help. Sets up the next episode. So yeah, I thought it was great. I liked it.
That creepy line could also be very like meta narrative because he's basically calling out someone who just watches things, which we are because we are the viewers watching these episodes. It's like, get a life. It's so creepy watching everybody else live their life. What else? I thought it was interesting that like in the films, Ultron's sort of main stick is that humans are viruses and they need to be eliminated. But ironically, in this world, really Ultron is the virus because he's like going into all these different worlds and just completely destroying them and spreading like a COVID virus. He's just destroying everything. We need to get a vaccine for him.
Yeah, the Ultron vaccine.
The Ultron virus. We need to deal with that. The other thing you briefly touched on was, which we didn't really go in detail, but Clint obviously dies to help Nat escape, and that is the exact like mirror image of Nat jumping off the cliff to give Clint to the Soul Stone. So similar, complete with like the hand grab and where he grabs her and he's like, "Let me go. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah, I think they just I think they probably did it almost shot for shot, but in the reverse. Which I did like. I love I like these two characters together, as we were kind of talking about at the beginning. So yeah, I thought that was a really good scene too. I mean, it kind of, I don't know, I didn't feel like he didn't need to die, but it's kind of like he finally just gave in to the whole episode. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So he's finally like, all right, I'm just going to go out with a bang, I guess.
Well, he could ensure that she would have a safe escape, right?
Yeah.
Like if he dies with the bomb, he's going to take out all the bots.
Yeah.
My thought was like, couldn't he just shoot that arrow from the distance?
Drop
it. But it is. But ultimately, like, I'm willing to go with it because it is a really cool like reversal of the in-game scene. I love that in-game scene. That was like one of my favorites. It's just so powerful. I think it was like, if you're gonna kill a character like Natasha, that's like the way to do it. And so I like how there was a callback to that and a mirror of it. So even though maybe he didn't actually need to die, but it was still good.
We can basically just pull the conversation with Steve and what was it, Rhodey, where he's like, "So why did you have to put the plane in the water again?" He's like, "Bombs on board." He's like, "Bombs, right? But couldn't you just drop the bombs?" like what? Why did you? Like, people's lives were in danger. He's like, "Yeah, right. okay, but still that, whatever. Like, it just, like, Clint, you didn't have to do that. I mean, I think it was more of, well, we've seen his character go to those dark places before with like the Ronin, you know, character where he tells Natasha, "Don't give me hope." So I think he's kind of already prone to that sort of melancholy. And then having lost his whole family.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When I said he didn't need to die, I mean, not to imply that isn't consistent with the rest of the episode. I think he had a death wish. Like we saw that through the whole episode. I think he wanted to die, and so he figured he may as well do it and save Natasha at the same time. But I think he probably could have saved her and not died if he really wanted to live.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, I wanted to jump into the ending and then do a little bit of speculation on next week. And if we missed anything else, then you guys can also always circle back around to it at the end. But so then the Watcher ends up in another little, I guess, diamond universe, or I don't know what you call that, where this Doctor Strange was. And basically, as Doctor Strange makes him grovel to him and makes him. I mean, the Watcher is he's got nothing else to do now. Like he did, as I said before, I just think he's never experienced anything like this. He just assumes he's all powerful, omniscient, and like this is not supposed to be happening. So he doesn't know what to do when something like this happens. So he has no choice but to go to Doctor Strange, and now we are setting up for, I think, getting the band together. I'm really curious how are they gonna, hey, why don't we just go get these characters from all the other episodes that I did and we'll do it that way. Like, I'm very curious how they are going to I guess how they're going to play that without it seeming too contrived, like oh well, there's all these different characters from the other episodes. Like, how, I wonder what the logic is going to be to get that team together. But we do know that is what's coming next week. I have no idea how they will be successful, or will they be successful in, I mean, they may not be successful in killing Ultron, but they may be successful in stopping him or making it so he can no longer travel into the multiverse, or trapping him somewhere. But clearly, they're going to be at least successful in stopping him somehow, because otherwise, then he just destroys the MCU, and that's the end of everything. So,
yeah. And that's horrible. As Brandon's saying in the chat, hope is an anchor. So we have to hope that the next episode is going to fix everything. So are you thinking that we'll be like cherry picking characters from each episode and then just popping them into
in the trailers, that seems to be what is implied. That we see all these different characters from the previous episodes, and then there's a version of Gamora who we haven't seen. So I'm wondering if that's from the missing episode, because there was originally supposed to be 10 episodes. So I don't know where this Gamora is going to come from. But we do see, like, it looks like Star-Lord, T'Challa, and looks like Party Thor and Peggy Carter and Doctor Strange are all going to be together fighting Ultron, I guess. I don't know.
I heard that concept, and it did make me think. The one thing I was thinking is like, okay, I can understand like this Doctor Strange Supreme, because he's like a jacked up version of Doctor Strange who had all this power. I can see him taking on Ultron, but the rest of them, like, really, what are they gonna do with Ultron? I mean, it's kind of like people were making fun of the first Suicide Squad movie, because the whole point was, oh yeah, we need a counter if Superman tries to attack the White House. It's like, oh, so you're gonna get like this girl with a baseball bat and a dude with a boomerang to stop Superman. And like, they kind of had that thought with, like, really, what can they do against Ultron? But I suppose they could be support for Doctor Strange as he takes on Ultron, I guess.
Well, plus we're also waiting to find out what happens with Arnim Zola and the like the downloaded
yes,
virus
that's true.
thing.
That
So
could
Yeah, that's still out there. Actually, that's still a possibility because he just wasn't able to
because
reach him because he was in the mirror prism, whatever, rainbow crystal world, whatever.
So they never got to try it yet. So
well, he tried it, but he wasn't there. Yeah, so
yeah.
And if we think back to to movies, right? Like the team almost stopped Thanos and got the glove off of him on that first try if Star-Lord hadn't have freaked out. So, and they weren't, the strongest team on the planet, but they were just all working together. So I'm assuming it's going to be something like that where we need you to push a button. That's all we need to do. Stay here and push the button when that goes red, Okay.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see how they're gonna play that. And I wanted to respond to something I saw Brandon mention earlier in the chat, which I didn't get to address. We talked about last week as well about how long next week's episode was going to be. And I had said previously, I felt like the finale should be 40 minutes. However, when I said that, I didn't realize that this episode would also be all about Ultron. I thought it was going to be something different. So I actually don't feel like we necessarily have to have a super long episode next week. It'd be nice if we did, but I think that it's possible since they already kind of did like the first part of the story here. They could do it in 30 minutes. Possibly. We'll just see. We'll see. I'm just very curious what they're going to do.
I mean, they're doing this like Guardians of the Multiverse team. I would like them to spend more time to get this team set up, but because I hope they just don't leave it on and I said this before, flat out cliffhanger, where nothing's resolved. Like I hope they don't do that. I hope
no, that would
No, you can't do that.
Yeah. No, they have to resolve the Ultron thing, but they can leave loose threads as Marvel is known to do. Yeah. They can have a post-credit scene even. I mean, that's fine. But they can't leave it with the Ultron thing unresolved. That would be very disappointing.
We don't have a resolution. I'll like pull out my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. card and go deal with it. I'll be like, okay, people, we need to do it. I didn't want to pull my agent card, but I'm pulling it now.
Okay. Is there anything we missed that you guys want to touch on real quick before we say our goodbyes?
Not that I can think of here. I think we've touched, like, basically talked about everything.
Okay.
Anybody
let's wrap
in the chat?
Yeah. Let's see.
Brandon says he thought the Ultron episode was meant to be episode 9, and they changed the order in his.
Well, next week's episode 9, is also the Ultron episode. It's kind of like it's a two-parter. And then if you're talking about IMDb, like several weeks ago, originally it had it listed as 10 episodes. This was originally going to be 10 episodes. And what we just saw was going to be 9. And what we're going to see next week was going to be 10. And there's a missing episode before that. And I think it's the one with Gamora in it because I don't understand where this Gamora we've seen in the trailers is coming from. But I don't know. Well, maybe we'll get more clarity on that next week.
Are they ever going to release that? Or is that just, it was never finished?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is with that.
Yeah, I assumed it would be pushed back to season 2. But
but not if it ties into this whole storyline, then it may not be. So
bonus features.
Don't know. I don't know. It'll be on the Blu-ray. Is that still a thing that happens anymore? I don't know.
Yes.
All right. So next week, the three of us will be back to talk about the second part of this. So there'll be the season finale, and joining us in a big, epic 4-person discussion will be Don Willie. So it'll be an epic 4-person panel to talk about hopefully an epic finale. We'll see. So I'm looking forward to that. Corrie, what are you up to? Or what do you want to tell the people about what you're up to, where they can find you?
Oh, goodness. You can find me on my YouTube channel if you type in my handle at Biblical Bliss, which is just on the bottom of the screen here. And then you can find me on my author webpage, Literature with Charm, and I'm always doing reviews with D on D's Reviews, and I'm here on Alyssa's channel too.
Yeah. Marc, what you up to?
So yeah, my channel is Enchantment of Eternity. I'm covering Star Trek Lower Decks at the moment and doing all random Star Trek videos. I'm going through, as Corrie mentioned earlier, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, watching that for the first time. Just started season 3. Yeah, we'll see how we go with that one. But yeah, and also covering Better Call Saul. I just finished my coverage for a while. I haven't released a video yet, but that's going to be out soon. And I'm also doing my perfect episode series where I take some of my favorite episodes from various non-Star Trek shows and just highlight them and look them over and give them the attention they deserve because I think they're great. I have the first one out is for Black Sails, and then the next one's coming next week. I think I'm doing Westworld for that one. But anyway, yeah, so be sure to check out my channel for that.
Oh, I'm also doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews with Darren and D's Reviews too.
Cool.
Hence my swag.
All right. So thanks for joining me here on Alyssa Jean's Reviews. That is the channel you are watching. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. So like Marc, I also do Lower Decks reviews weekly, and mine is coming out a little late. I'm going to finish it up as soon as I'm finished with here. So it'll be out late tonight at some point. And then midnight West Coast time, my new video will drop. I've started a new monthly series called Nostalgia Lane, where I go back and revisit a movie from my youth and talk about how I saw it when I first saw it way back when I was younger, and then kind of talk about things that I noticed upon my rewatch. And so my first one is Back to the Future. So that will be dropping late tonight, early tomorrow morning. And then I'll be doing a video like that once a month. But yeah, it was really fun watching it again. Now I kind of want to. I'm not reviewing 2 and 3, but I kind of want to watch 2 and 3 now because you have to watch them all at the same time. But
are you saying you made a time machine out of a DeLorean?
Well, there's only one thing that I need to ask you, and that's what the hell is that?
Okay, so now we have to make like a tree and get out of here.
Dear. Or it'll just descend into chaos.
So we'll see you all next week with the 3 of us and Don Willie. So have a good week. We'll see you later. Goodbye, everybody.